Their support, plus donations from listeners like...
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the Monday, February 13th Public Works and Finance Committee of the Moscow City Council. I am Gina Terusio. To my left and your right is Councilman Art Bedke, and to my right and your left is Councilmember Walter Steed. Okay, first item on the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. On my left again, your right, is our Assistant City Supervisor, Jen Piffner. Thank you, Jen, for being here. And okay, jumping into the agenda. First item is approval of the Public Works Finance Committee minutes from January 23rd.
I am okay with them. They looked well written, and I was here. They seemed to reflect what went on.
Excellent. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve? Put that on the consent agenda?
I would consider them approved.
Okay, excellent. Okay, second item is the disbursement report for January 2017. Miss Sarah.
Okay. Good afternoon. Looking at the CCSRs, the expenditures for the month of January total $2,485,713. The largest expense we have, as usual, is payroll, which is $983,326. Major expenditures are about 94%, and some of the large ones that we had that you will notice. In professional services, we paid out to the City of Pullman for the airport realignment project of $500,000. We had a warranty security release in the amount of $175,643, and we also purchased an electric meter reader vehicle out of the water department, and that was $39,000. This during this pay period, we also did the VEBA contribution for $49,700 to employees' contributions, and that was generous on your guys' behalf. $350 per employee. So that's it.
If I may, sir, you had a $175,000 item. I didn't catch what it was.
It's the warranty security release. It came out of community development. For a development that was being developed. I don't know if Bill maybe wants to speak a little more on that one.
Project it was.
Yeah, that was the security for the one-year warranty on construction and public improvements on one of the Indian Hills subdivisions.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Les. Okay.
Looks good to me.
Sounds great to me, too.
I'm good.
All right.
Do we have the special blue pin?
Yes, here you
We
go.
do need a special blue pen. Okay, the next item on the agenda while we're signing is the Friendly and Diverse Community Resolution. Mayor Lambert, I believe you were going to visit with us about that?
Hello, sir.
Yes, and thank you very much for inviting me up, Chair Terusio. What we have here is a resolution, and I'm not sure what, it's going to be 2017-something, but that's something once we get in front of the entire council. And what this is, it's a resolution for our city. First off, I want to share with everybody that's watching us or in our audience that this is something that was an idea that came from all of us, and all of us meaning the mayor as well as the city council. And we tasked staff with helping write it up, and we got a number of different inputs, and I thought it was very well written. And this has to do with our commitment for those folks that come here to Moscow. And there's a whole bunch of whereases. There's 5 or 6 of them. I'm going to read a few of them just so everybody can get a flavor of it. And then I got a paragraph that I want to read as well. The city of Moscow is a diverse community composed of people from all over the world and welcomes all people seeking the opportunity for a better life. The city of Moscow is the home to the University of Idaho and enthusiastically embraces students from all over the world. And the last count, it was, I believe, 85 different countries represented at the University of Idaho. I personally have had a chance to meet a number of those people. And they were from all over the world, whether it would be Saudi Arabia, Iran, Vietnam, China, Japan, Mexico, and on and on and on. Not just those countries. I said 85. I won't list all 85 of them because I wouldn't remember them all if I could. The point is here in Moscow, new residents are a vital part of our community. They bring fresh perspectives, new ideas, and contributing to the vibrant diversity of our community. And that adds value for all of us. The City of Moscow, through past statements and actions, has affirmed our commitment to be a friendly community, acknowledging that discrimination impedes the social and economic progress of a city by preventing all from fully contributing to the cultural, spiritual, social, commercial life of this community. The contributions of all individuals in the City of Moscow are essential to the city's social and economic growth, vitality, and prosperity. Extremely important. The City of Moscow is committed to being a friendly and diverse city where all residents and visitors feel welcomed, safe, and able to fully participate in and contribute to our city's economic and social life. And we urge all residents of the City of Moscow to do their part in reaching out and welcoming all those who live here and visit our community. That being said, in a nutshell, is if you come to Moscow, you're going to be treated well. And we expect a high level of productivity out of you and to blend in with the diversity within our community, enjoy your life, and bring everybody prosperity, because that's how we're going to get good economic growth. And what I would ask, this is going to be in front of the admin meeting after your guys' meeting, and I would love to see this go on the regular agenda for our next council meeting so it can be discussed. I would be, oh, by the way, Latah County Task Force has sent us an email today, very much supportive of some type of a statement for the from the City of Moscow, and I don't know if you all have read that or not, but I think that's something that needs to be noted.
Human Rights Task Force.
Human Rights Task Force. What did they say?
Just Task Force.
Oh, Human Rights Task Force. Sorry. Thank you, Walter, for helping me out with that. So with that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Gentlemen?
I don't have any. I'm in favor of it.
Moscow's always been, over the years when I was here, the city with a smile, and I think this just reinforces that fundamental idea that Moscow's always had this friendly, welcoming, and accepting of diverse people sort of community, and I'm fully in favor of this.
I am as well. I think it is an elegantly written statement, so I'm very much in favor of it. All right, so we are in favor of putting it on
Full agenda.
full agenda? Excellent.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Lambert.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do you want to take any public comment or not?
You could if you wanted.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and share their thoughts about this item? Specifically, the statement about the friendly and inclusive community. Okay. All right, our next item is the FTA Fiscal Year 17 Certifications and Assurances and Master Agreement. Good Lord. Elisa Anderson.
Thank you. Welcome to my world. Councilman Steed asked me to give you guys a little bit of background on how I came to this point today with this documentation. Originally, we applied for a covered bike shelter that would be located here at City Hall in the green space out front here. And we also had applied for 6 bus shelters, and then bike sharrows and bikeway finding signage, and a 15-passenger van pool van. And that was back in March of 2015. After we submitted that application, SMART had funding still available in their program that they had to expend by the end of April that we had not been previously aware of. And so during that time, SMART purchased 5 bus shelters before we were notified that we had received this award, which was in June of 2015. From that point, once we received the award, the project had to go on to the STIP to be approved. So we received what was called a preliminary notice that our project had been chosen for the funding. It went through the STIP process, which is the Statewide Transportation Improvement Plan. And there were no public comments that were adverse to our project, so we were notified that we would receive the funding again. When we originally applied for the funding, we were told that it would be funding for starting on 10/1/2016 and ending on 9/30/2018. So it was a 2-year award. And this was
16 of 16.
10/1/16 through 9/30/18 was the project period. There were several people throughout the state that submitted applications, and we were one of the projects that was chosen. However, as far as the funding from FTA to the state, it was one award. So it was a 5339 funding program, which is projects throughout the state that were to improve public transit services. That could be buses or infrastructure, or also it included bike infrastructure. And so that's why we had kind of the 5 different elements. We had a bus, the bikeway, and the sharrows that we can install for the bike paths or the bike lanes, and then also the bus shelters. What we did, because SMART was able to purchase shelters, is we've been able to look at some different sites, because the Walmart structure bus shelter was installed through the shelter that was purchased by SMART was in our original application. At the time, we also had been looking at a shelter downtown, but has since decided that the council had decided that they didn't want to put another shelter downtown. So new sites were looked at. Back in September of 2016, I came to you with an original document that was also called then the FTA Fiscal 2016 documents. So back in September of 2016, you guys were approved the same document you saw today with some additional information that appointed certain staff members responsible for certain things and approving that you were accepting the funding. That was all submitted. And now that we're in 2017, they're asking you to recertify those same certifications and assurances. FTA requires you to do that each year. In November of 2016, after the project period opened, we received a contract for purchase of the van. And that was one of many eligible vehicles that were purchased or eligible for purchase statewide. Because that contract didn't require construction or any other environmental requirements, all the van contracts or bus contracts were sent out right after the project period opened. So we executed that contract through council's approval in November of last year, and it was too late to really procure a 2016 van at that point. So we've been in the process of looking at the procurement process, and actually it's waiting for me to get everything passed on to legal to review at this point. And we already have the contract in place to purchase that additional 15-passenger van. And right now, well, actually since November of last year, engineering, after they got done with their 2016 construction session, has been looking at the alternate sites that were recommended by SMART for bus shelters or a bench or some sort of amenity at an existing site. During that time, other sites have been chosen. One of the original ones was at Egan and Mountain View for a bus shelter. Another site that had been looked at and recommended for some sort of amenity was near F and Orchard, and we're working on just putting in a bench at that area because it has to sit within we'll need a small easement because it'll have to be near a homeowner's house in that area. It's pretty well protected by trees. 3 other locations, 2 on a street, and I forget the cross street of the one, but I know that one of them is in front of Superior Floors. The other one is further toward the mall And if someone's here from engineering that can help me out here, I can't remember at this point. I didn't look it up before I came. It's near one of the other stops that a bus shelter is needed. Kevin knows. What's our other spot?
It's
on A Street.
Just west of Peterson on A.
Okay,
at the top of the
Peterson.
hill.
I realized I didn't know that answer until I got
Thank
in
you,
the
Kevin.
in the room here today. And then another one on Alman near the area behind Rosars where the bus stop is. And at these locations, especially the one on Alman, we'll be also installing sidewalk because we can go out a half mile from each stop. So those things weren't originally calculated in our budget. However, we have the funding to do that now. So since engineering has completed their estimates and designs, preliminary designs for that, we're now in the process of preparing the environmental review documents that have to be submitted simultaneously to FTA and SHPO and TIPO and ITD. So that's where we are with that process right now. So that kind of brings you up to date on where we are. When the environmental reviews are submitted and approved, then we can move forward with bidding of those locations. So what you have before you today is a renewal of what you had originally approved in September of last year for the FTA certifications and assurances. And it's the master agreement also that has that ITD has to put into the system for each entity that was awarded under the large portfolio of the 5339 funding.
You got it?
I am
Now
totally
I do.
hip to this whole thing.
Yeah. I have one question,
Please,
if I
please
may.
do.
Has SMART constructed all 5 of the ones that they had funds for?
No, the only one that has been installed that they purchased was the Walmart one. We're actually using the shelters that they purchased for this project, but we're using the funding to do the additional sidewalk amenities leading up to those structures.
They paid for the structure product itself, not the installation or other concrete work. Okay.
Yes, they purchased just the shelter, which then allowed us to take the funding we originally applied for and do additional amenities at the locations of the structures, and has given us the ability to put that sidewalk in on Almond and some other improvements. And then also we'll be able to pay for the landscaping, Y-scaping with the bus shelter or the covered bike parking outside here.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Excellent.
Now, just one tidbit, because I've been asked about this, is that until we can get the approval on the environmentals for the bike shelter and the bus shelters, we're not allowed to use the funding for the bike sharrows and the bike wayfinding signage. So that all has to be approved in one group. So.
Do you anticipate that being a long process, or what's your gut?
I've heard that. I've been told by ITD that FTA is 6 to 8 weeks out on their environmental review process. So,
Once you submit.
yes. And we're actually submitting, to all 3 agencies at once because it'll take that long. And so while I'm waiting the 30 days from SHPO and TIPO, then I can submit that additional information to FTA and it'll go in with the original submittal.
Okay,
Good.
great.
So we should recommend favorably to council to review and acknowledge and approve the FTA 2017?
I agree. Question is, does it go on consent?
It's such a simple project.
It has in the past been on the consent
On
agenda.
consent?
Yes.
You good with consent?
I'm okay with consent.
Okay. All right. Put that one on the consent agenda. Thank you, Elisa. Okay, the next item is Booster Stations Phase 1 Bid Award. Kevin Lilly.
Hello,
Hello,
everybody.
sir.
Good day.
We had a bid opening on January 31st for our first 3 booster stations. This, as you may recall, has been bid in the past and came in quite a bit above the engineer's estimate. And we had looked at a few cost-saving measures that didn't pan out, but we are able to fund the existing contract. The low bidder was T.W. Clark of Spokane in the amount of $2,222,500. That was basically right on the engineer's estimate. We would like to get construction going as soon as possible in the spring, and the contract allows them up to 365 days to complete the 3 booster stations. So this item is for your concurrence on awarding the contract to T.W. Clark.
So this is for 3 of the booster stations out of the 6?
Yes.
And just by way of clarification, the booster stations are there to enhance fire flow and system pressure throughout these neighborhoods?
Yes,
that are otherwise
indeed.
lacking. So,
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, one question. Where did the additional $400,000 from the original engineer's estimate to the amount of this low bid come from in the budget?
In the budget, this is all being paid from the state revolving fund loan.
So it's just a matter of it was borrowing additional $400,000.
Not borrowing an additional, but spending an additional out of that pot that we did borrow.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I think fire flow is a
Gentlemen.
good idea.
Yes, I think this is an important thing, and we will want this on regular agenda? Or consent? Does it matter?
It can go on consent.
Consent? Okay, I say it goes on consent then. Kevin, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So that was a big item.
Yes.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Paul Mann Building Structural Assessment. David Schott is here to tell us some good information, I'm sure.
Scary.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. This is a consideration of the Paul Mann Building Structural Assessment Project. Before we get started, I wanted to make a note that within the professional services agreement, we did make a change this morning, so I just wanted to let this group know. This would be on page 154 of your packet, page 2 of 9 of the agreement. Top of the page under section 4, compensation. Item A, we added the phrase after the $2,000 per the fee and rate schedule as set out in Exhibit A. So I'll get you a revised one, Lori, tomorrow. So, thank you. A little bit of background. The Paul Mann Building was purchased in 1999 by the city. It was remodeled in 2000 to house the Community Development Department as well as sections of the Public Works Department. The building was named after the former mayor of Moscow, Paul Mann. We noticed when we were getting ready to paint the building that it had a substantial cracking in the walls in the building, primarily on the southwest corner, but also on the south of the building and the west of the building. So to investigate, we plugged into the fiscal year 17 budget $2,500 for the structural assessment project. Reliant Engineering submitted a scope and work and fee proposal for $2,000 to do the work. In the professional and services agreement, Phase 1 would be a site assessment. They're proposing 2 site visits to conduct a physical inspection of both the interior and exterior walls, including the roof. One of these site visits will be during a nice day. The second will be on a rainy day to hopefully see what's going on in here. They'll do some photo documentation. Based on the first site visit, they may request a destructive investigation. This will require approval from the city. This will be minimal. Some examples of this would be rotor hammer a couple of quarter or half-inch holes into the cinder blocks, the concrete blocks, to get an idea what's going on in there. Maybe some of the flashing around the roof would be removed to get a view in there. They're also may take out a small section of drywall on the ceiling to get an idea what's going on there. We just want to figure out what's going on when we start seeing some cracks like this on the building. So, phase 2 be an evaluation of their findings, and if they can put engineering calculations, they will. So that's if possible. They'll do a preliminary report to the city. Phase 3 will be a final report with findings and a proposed remediation. We've got cracks. We know what's going on. This is how we fixed it. And along with the remediation recommendations, it'll have cost estimates, ranges for those fixes. As far as the timeline, we're here at the Public Works and Finance Committee meeting today. At Council next week. With approval, I'll issue notice to proceed and execute the professional services agreement with Reliant Engineering. I've got them scheduled to be substantially complete mid-April with final completion in late April. Our recommendation is to give us authorization to proceed with the agreement for the structural assessment, and the action is to approve the authorization to proceed with the project or provide us with some direction. So, thank you. With that, I'd take any questions from the committee.
How old's the building?
Councilor Steed, that's a good question. I do not know the answer to that.
Does anybody know the original construction date, maybe? Bill Belknap says mid-60s, so that's 50 plus.
That's fair.
And secondly, any cracks before this that we know of?
In my research, Councilor Steed, I saw some activity on this around 2011, that they were going, what's going on with the cracking. So that's where we're at.
So it didn't just happen in the last few months. It's more evident now.
Yes, this has been ongoing. I don't believe a recent snow we've had event this winter caused the cracking. It was pre-snow loads of this year.
Okay.
So.
The building's cracking. I think we want to know about it and find out exactly the depth of the issue and remediate if possible, or at least figure out what to do about it. You can't do anything if you don't know. So, yeah, I think we should go ahead and study this.
I agree. All right. Does that have to go on the regular agenda?
Nope.
Okay. Do we like consent?
Yeah.
I like the
Yes.
consent agenda. Okay. David, thank you.
Thank you.
Those are quite compelling images.
Good.
For sure. Okay, our next item is the Sunnyside Avenue Local Improvement District. Mr. McDonald.
Good afternoon again.
Hello there.
Well, we are about to embark upon something that we haven't done in a while.
Indeed.
Interestingly enough, the city of Moscow has done local improvement districts through most of its history. I think we've done in excess of 130 of them over the years. So it's something that has been used many, many times within the community, but really not much in the last decade. I think we've done 3 or 4 in my 13 years here. The last 3 being Boyd Avenue, Linda Lane, and then the North Polk water main. The last of those probably 5-6 years ago. So it's been a bit of a dry spell, if you will, for LIDs within the city, which is somewhat unusual. So, but we now have one ahead of us, and this is kind of the initial introduction to the local improvement district that's proposed. From here, you will see this item come back to this committee again in about 2 weeks for the next official steps, which involves a resolution, and then ultimately end up at a public hearing, which tentatively we're looking at occurring in the first meeting in April. So it's out about that long. But to help set the stage, if you will, for this one, what we're looking at is the area on the kind of the south central part of town. So here's Main Street, US 95, Palouse River Drive, in this area. And this is the Anderson subdivision area, Anderson Frontier Park here. The section that we're going to be zooming in on is really this portion of incomplete Sunnyside Avenue. And The street has been constructed from the north down to this point and from the south up to this point. So there's a gap here. It's just part of a field today. The intent is to finish this section of roadway with this local improvement district. So we would build that portion. The properties that would be involved in the local improvement district would be within this rough boundary. Really at the moment, there are actually 3 parcels now involved. This map is a little bit older, and it shows the one on the south, which is still intact, but the one on the north, through action of the council here in the last month, has been split, roughly right in here, into 2 parcels. So there would be 3 parcels of land, all currently under one ownership within this LID boundary. We are anticipating some changes in ownership over the course of this year, which will then increase the number of property owners, if you will, involved in the final assessment. But really today it's just to essentially tell you that it's coming, that the intent here is that in the next round of committee and council, that we'd be bringing forward to you a resolution of intent to form a local improvement district. That is the point at which we start sending out the assessment rolls, the notice to the properties within the LID boundary, start the clock ticking on the public hearing notice, all those types of things. So pretty short and sweet for today. So just wanted to give you a chance to know it's coming and see if you had any questions at this point that I can answer.
There are no houses on the northeast part of Pearl Circle? That's vacant land at the moment?
Right, yeah, this is all vacant land. Everything, well, I think there's maybe an old structure here.
It's an
But
old house,
everything in
farmhouse.
here, yeah, everything in here is vacant.
Okay.
There are some utilities that run across the northerly edge that serve these houses to the north.
And, if I may?
Please.
And this is at the request of the property owner,
That is correct.
which is the way Moscow has done these since the 80s.
Generally speaking, yes. We have done local improvement districts at the request of the property owners. There are some rules pertaining to petition to form an LID. If you are a resident property owner, then it's, and everybody within the area is, we have to have 60% of those property owners sign a petition. If they are landlord-type situations, rentals, then we need 66% of those owners to sign the petition. In this case, we have 100% because it's represented at the moment by one landowner. So that makes it pretty simple in that regard.
Yeah. Excellent.
Well, I'd
More
look forward to
questions?
the resolution when it arises.
Yeah.
Now, the action on our agenda calls for forwarding to the city council. Is that what you're asking for, or is that not the case?
This really is following the way we did the last couple some years ago to actually place this on the council agenda. It's typically been done as a consent item in the past, and essentially it's that we're recommending. How did we word this? Place the item on a future agenda is essentially how we worded it previously. So we carried that technique forward, if you will.
So this does not go to council next week?
This would go to council next week under this recommendation, just to say, hey, go ahead and put it on the agenda. We want to start looking at the formation of this LID.
Jen?
So I think we put it on the committee
Jen, if you're
agenda
clear,
2
go ahead and do
weeks.
it.
Committee agenda for 2 weeks and council the week after.
The way we've done this historically, well, I'll say historically, the last couple is this discussion right here, we had also forwarded on to the council to say it's coming. And then following that, we would bring the resolution of intent to form back to committee and council.
Do we need to put that first step in there, Liz?
I would say
It's
We
rare
can
that
ask our city attorney if he thinks it's
we
necessary.
put an
but-
information item of
Here comes the
this
city
Right.
attorney.
forward to council.
Right.
We can do it either way.
Yeah, it's really more informative at this stage.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Hello.
Yeah, I believe what he's doing is just trying to inform council what's coming. I did not see, looking through the local improvement district statute, that it's required that you say, telegraph what you're going to do. I think it just was presented as information to the council of what's coming.
So if we're comfortable, we can go ahead and move 2 weeks out to the next committee meeting, come back here with the resolution and more detail about what's involved. At that point, we will have information on the cost of the project, the assessment roll, those types of things, public hearing dates, all of that ready to roll.
Okay, and do you anticipate this is going to occur before or after the land is sold?
My understanding is that the first sale will probably occur after the public hearing. So this would be first. Then we'll see potentially some changes in ownership over the course of the summer. And then by the time we reach the final assessment roll, which will likely be very late this year, early next year, potentially we'll have 3 owners involved at that point.
It will be binding.
Is there a timing problem here, Rob?
No, it'll be binding on, if they subdivide the land, it'll be binding on the future property owners.
And the future property owners, as I understand it, are aware that
Yes.
this may be coming forward.
Yes,
So-
they've been
It'll
involved
be
in the
disclosed in any
discussions.
sale.
Excellent. Thanks for the heads up.
I didn't want to
appreciate
get started on this only to have some new owners say, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
that. Okay. Excellent. So we'll forward to the City Council with a recommendation to put it on a future agenda. Okay.
Or to-
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, I just made a note. It'll go to committee probably on the 27th of February.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Now, that is the end of our formal agenda. We do have a report. Les, you're up again. The Avista Street Luminaire Replacement Program update.
Actually, what I'm going to do is introduce Paul Kimmel, who's the Vista representative, who's actually going to give the report.
These papers.
This will be interesting.
Good afternoon, council members.
Mr. Kimmel.
Staff. How are you? I did bring handouts. So, plenty of those.
Thank you, Walter.
Les has one. I think you had one, but that's fine. So again, thank you for this opportunity to come and just update you on our LED streetlight changeout program. Before we do that, if I could just maybe have you turn 90 degrees and look at a few slides to kind of inform you about what led us to this this technology upgrade. It's really about, it's just a little about us. We're still the same utility we've been since 1889, with the exception of an additional utility that we purchased up in Juneau, Alaska, about 2 years ago. Again, lots of innovation in our company's culture, from creating companies like Itron, Relion, and Ecova, and more recently, some of the large investments that we've seen with smart grid investments in Pullman, Spokane. Unfortunately, Idaho, we haven't done a lot of testing over here or innovation, but we're not forgetting about you, really. Okay, so
That's good.
it's coming. Again, the largest vanadium flow energy storage battery is just over on the Schweitzer campus, which is really exciting. And we're doing more test use with that, essentially using that to serve as a UPS for Schweitzer's manufacturing building. So again, so that continuity will be there for them, so we don't disrupt the manufacturing process. Pretty cool stuff.
Not everybody knows that term.
On an uninterruptible power supply, UPS. So you have those on your computers often. And again, more recently we built a large community solar project up in Spokane area. Again, and how we do these sorts of things, it's what we call our design thinking methodology.
Is that the team?
That is the team. Fifth floor, absolutely. We do ask, how might we serve our customers better? How might we provide more energy efficiency, more services economically, reliably, et cetera, and why? And again, a lot of it has to do with the technology that is now in the marketplace, and of which LED streetlights is just one technology. I'll show you a little bit about some of the advanced metering infrastructure that we're going to roll out in Washington and then come over here into Idaho as well in the next few years. A lot of it just has to do with all of the data available as well, and this new technology provides us with just a plethora of data and some of that data will be sharing with our municipalities and actually create platforms that we can share that information, as well as that advanced metering, helping share water meter reads, et cetera, between the city and the utility, and so creating some of those new relationships around that. Again, the Smart Grid Demonstration Project was an $80 million investment, $40 million in Pullman alone on that, and a lot of great testing we found, built a more resilient, reliable system over there. Very cool stuff. Reduced our outages by a tremendous amount, 42,000 megawatt hours of energy efficiency and 2 million avoided outage minutes with that upgrade. So pretty impressive stuff. And again, that will be coming here in the future. For now, we're going to just be working on streetlights. So again, we're offering our customers more on rooftop solar. You're going to see more of your citizens want rooftop solar here. So we've provided some things out on our website so they can consider that, whether there's a return on that investment, so forth. We'll also provide some information as well as vendors and service providers and so forth. We're also experimenting with electric vehicles. We're going to put in a fast charge electric vehicle site in Rosalia, as well as one in Pullman. So we'll have a connected highway from Spokane down, so somebody that has a Nissan Leaf could actually get to Pullman for a football game and back. But again, about every 30 miles, we'd like to put a fast charge vehicles. And this is, again, a pilot that we got approved in Washington. So we're experimenting with that. And soon enough, we'll be building this out in Idaho as well. We'll go west out to Othello and connect up that Highway 26 over to Seattle, and eventually down to Boise. So pretty exciting stuff. But we bought some electric vehicles for our employees to use. They get it for like a week at a time. And what we found is those that weren't really interested in electric vehicles, after they drove one for a week, we on a scale of 0 to 5, they went from a 2.5 to a 4.7 of their interest in buying an electric vehicle. So just some fun social experimenting. This is our large vanadium flow battery site over on the Schweitzer campus. It looks essentially like 8 ocean containers, 8 by 20 containers. It's the largest vanadium flow battery in North America as well as Europe, and so pretty cool stuff that we're doing with that. And again, it could have applications as we look more toward a distributed grid, more distributed generation, community solar, wind, etc. We're going to need to find places to store that intermittent kinds of energy. The sun only shines during the day. What do you do with that excess power and so forth? We're also this is an exciting experiment up in Spokane, which I think will have ultimately some benefits here in our smaller communities as well. It's called Urbanova. There's some website out there, but again, how we sort of incorporate some of this new technology into both healthier citizens, safer neighborhoods, smarter infrastructure, stronger economy. We partnered with WSU, Schweitzer, McKinstry, and a few others on that. And part of it is the smart and connected streetlight pilot. And that essentially are intelligent streetlights that will have metering for dimmable streetlights, as well as they'll be able to read air quality and just share information about their micro environment and climate around each streetlight. So again, and then how do we share that kind of data with others, government especially? So pretty cool stuff. And again, ultimately it will come down to places like Moscow and how we sort of create this shared information platform, which I think as a utility that makes this kind of investment, we'll certainly want to work with our municipalities on creating that platform. So again, it's a way that we're going to forge this energy future together, including streetlights. And this is just an update on where we are today in Moscow. And more generally, this is a 5-year change out or upgrade We own about 30,000 streetlights across our service area in Washington and Idaho. And so 2.5 years ago, we decided the technology, LED technology, was at a point where we felt comfortable with standards and the manufacturing offers and suppliers that we felt we were at a point where we could invest in that technology. So we've approached this, first of all, starting in Washington. Again, sorry. There's a story for that, too. But
Sure.
So what you are seeing here, essentially, in Moscow is just, for now, we are just replacing burned-out streetlights, the high-pressure sodium, which HPS, to the LED technology. So that's all we're doing in Moscow right now. And I don't have a date certain when we'll do full change-out here. It's likely to be 2018 at the earliest. But again, most of our resources and manpower is focused on Washington, and I'll explain why in a second. The benefits, again, on average about 50% less energy with LED versus high-pressure sodium, about 2 to 3 times longer life, better lighting quality as far as uniform light, as well as true color resolution for the lights and what it's shining on. Again, that's a really strong benefit for law enforcement, and as well as any kind of activity at night. Reduced maintenance costs. So with that longer life, we just don't have to touch it as often. And then again, the environmental impacts. There's no toxic materials, no mercury, and it's 100% recyclable. Just to let you know, these are full cutoff fixtures, and especially so these would comply with your dark sky ordinance. And you can see on the upper left there, here's a full cutoff. So essentially, no light gets emitted above that 90-degree plane there. And then the color temperatures. So what, and part of, I think, what we had some concerns here in Moscow. That was a manufacturer that we know we're not using anymore. It was, I think it was a Philips LED streetlight, and we've gone to a new fixture, and I've provided some specs in that,
Okay.
Which is a little lower luminance and color temperature. We're still at about a 4,000 with that. Yeah, this is it here. So a like-for-like change-out. So what essentially we're doing, so all of the high-pressure sodium, we're switching over to now an American Electric LED. So again, we're not putting in more streetlights anywhere unless you ask us to. The foot candles are the same luminance, 0.6 versus 0.6. These, instead of semi-cutoff, they're full cutoff, and then the lumens are instead of the 9600, they're actually 6320 on average.
Could I stop you and ask a question, please?
Yes.
Mr. Kimmel?
Okay. I am not a scientist, electrical engineer.
I'm not
for
going to go
full
into
disclosure.
luminance.
Okay.
I don't even really understand that myself. The question I did have, however, was how long is the high-pressure sodium lifespan? And because you said it was 2 to 3 times more, what does that mean?
What we're getting, we're getting a 10-year warranty on these LED streetlights, so we're putting at least a 20-year lifespan at least. High-pressure sodium, I really can't give you a good answer, but it's, we can change those out on within 10 years,
Okay.
kind of thing. So
Great. Thank you.
If I may, Paul, before you leave that picture, the one on the left is what we've had up until now.
yes.
And the one on the right, on the arm, is what it looks like when the new installation is complete.
That's correct.
So are they changing out the head or just the lower part, effectively the bulb?
So we're changing out from here, essentially where that mast comes out. So this.
Okay, the whole head changes.
Yeah, this whole head right here.
Okay.
Changes. So, but the change is so different, and especially it's been exacerbated with the snow cover. So when we go in and replace a burnout, and everybody's used to that comfortable, warm, high-pressure sodium yellow light, and you put in this seemingly brighter LED street light with that snow just it is a drastic change. And unfortunately, it's a drastic change. So that's what we're getting. That's where we're getting calls from customers and cities saying, "Hey, whoa, what goes on here?" When in fact, the lighting and lumens is actually less. Mm-hmm. It's just a much more efficient kind of lighting. There's also been, and in your packets, there's information about some AMA article about the concern over blue light versus other light, and I've provided some industry as well as some of our own findings to kind of question some of that as well. Again, we're a utility. We've been here 127, 28 years. We're not going to introduce a technology, whether it's an advanced meter or a LED street light, that's going to endanger our public. We wait. We let the industry sort it, create some standards, vigorous kinds of testing, and so forth. And so, again, this is not a careless investment on our part at all. So, but again, I think it's a reasonable concern of people, and I'm happy to provide you links as well as digital copies of all of our studies as well. So.
That'd be good for the record.
Yeah.
Sure.
That'd be good.
Okay.
Please, if you would.
I can do that, yeah. Just a kind of a quick reference on, this is just some average. The high-pressure sodium on the left here, these are the standard wattages that you have in Moscow, 100 watts, kind of in your residential. Your arterials, some are 200 watt. And then your major areas are the 400 watts. And these are the LED equivalents. So quite a bit of energy savings right there.
So you're going equivalent to equivalent?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just so a 100-watt equivalent is actually only using...
Right, but you're putting a 100-watt equivalent back in.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Right, yeah. Unless you ask us differently. But for now, that's what we're doing. And just to be responsive to customers, again, as we do these, a lot of times we do them during the day, so the level and tilt of those isn't quite optimum. We'll come back out. We'll adjust those because at night, if we do get one wrong, it shines in bedrooms, and the light isn't intended to shine in bedrooms. It's intended to shine on streets and sidewalks and public spaces. We'll come in. We'll also install house side shields on those as well. And then there's some other things that we're looking at, the drop-down refractors, which kind of diffuses and softens that as well. And then also we have fixtures with dimmer capabilities that we're going to offer. So again, we have the customer service number, but you all have my cards, and I encourage you to send your citizens my way. I'm happy to work with our servicemen to get it fixed quickly. There's nothing worse than a bright light shining in a bedroom and goes on for a week or 2 or 3. We'd like to get those addressed quickly.
What kind of Kelvin did you say the LEDs have now, the new ones?
The 4,000.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Again, here's some light trespass on both the LED as well as the high-pressure sodium, what that looks like. Certainly a very big difference in just the quality and color of that lighting. And again, everybody is pretty much used to this high-pressure sodium. But from a technology standpoint, it's getting more difficult to purchase high-pressure sodium as well as stock it for us. So, we made the decision to go to the LED technology. Unfortunately, in Washington, we also created a partnership with the State Transportation Improvement Board, and we're doing some buy-downs with them on that. So in Washington towns and cities, we can actually offer about a 40% rate reduction, which is great for a lot of towns. So Pullman qualified, and they'll be saving somewhere in excess of $100,000 on their streetlight bill.
Wow.
So I wish we could offer it in Idaho, too, because our cities struggle with street levies and energy costs as well. So what you will see going forward with this new technology, you go, okay, Paul, wait a second. I'm hearing it uses half the energy, longer life, less maintenance and operation. Why isn't the rate going to go down? Good question. And it will go down. It just will take more time because as we change out those, we still have a lot of high-pressure sodium lights in the system, and those are set at a rate. We have the LEDs at that similar rate. So as we install more of the LED technology, that rate will start coming down. So going forward, I'm confident that you'll see a lower rate on your streetlights, even in Idaho. I wish we could offer a program like this, but
So do we.
yeah, unless you want to, no, we won't suggest annexation or border adjustments or anything like that. So, but again, I am always available if you need me, phone, meet with somebody, or send them my email, phone number, so forth.
Well, I'm glad Avista's doing this, and I'm also glad that you paid attention to what people are saying and went for the lower Kelvin bulbs and got the different manufacturer, plus are willing to go out and work with homeowners about any light trespass that may be occurring.
And so,
that's good stuff.
Thank you. And yeah, we're looking. I know the city of Coeur d'Alene is kind of facing a similar concern. Customers are saying, "Whoa, this is really bright," and so we may be able to offer, and I can't commit to it today, but there may be even a lower Kelvin that we could look at for residential neighborhoods. But again, I think it's just been magnified with the snow cover, and unfortunately, it's pretty bright. But if we get them adjusted right, I think the pedestrian public, the biking public, the driving public, and public safety certainly likes that kind of
And
lighting.
I'm also glad, too, that you went for the full cutoffs to stay with the dark skies.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was a big thing for me.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being a great partner.
Question for Les, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Les, to this point, the city of Moscow is only receiving and passing calls regarding these new lights. You're passing them on to Avista.
That is correct.
The city has not taken a hand in this.
At this point, the light changes have all been Avista facilities, and so, yes, we've been handing them on to Paul, letting folks know that that's what we're doing and getting them connected.
Do we have any authority within our franchise agreement to direct Avista regarding these lights?
That'd certainly have to be a question we'd put to legal, if they would.
And I'm not suggesting we should. I'm just.
If there was a need. At this point, I think, continuing discussions that we've started in terms of how the new lights are applied and if there are some alternatives to the 4,000 Kelvin to perhaps something else in local streets that Paul mentioned versus perhaps the 4,000 higher wattages in the corridors for high-use areas.
That's it.
Excellent.
The city is our customer, so we're gonna try and address your concerns and needs as best we can. So,
Okay, gentlemen, that's the last item. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We are adjourned.